Good morning, everybody. Oh, we've got a little lag there. Okay, I think we're okay now. Good morning, everybody. So we started reading Max the Mighty yesterday, and we're going to continue on. So we've got our same Max, that's our main character, and he met a girl named Worm yesterday. So we're going to see what kind of adventures and things they get into. We're going to read chapters 4, 5, and 6 today. So here we go. Chapter 4, You Know Who. The next day, I'm hanging around the park. It's not much of a park, just this sloping down grass place by the old mill pond, with a statue of a guy on a horse, some Civil War general, and he's pointing his sword at the pond like he's going to chase the ducks away. The whole statue is this rusted green color, except for his hat, which is white where the birds are always pooping on it. I'm sitting on this bench by the edge of the pond, tossing pebbles into the water and thinking it's a good thing it's Saturday because it's way too nice for school. Sometimes I like to stare at the way the sun glitters on the water, these jagged bits of light that float like diamonds or something. And if you look at it long enough, you feel sort of hypnotized, like somebody has cast a spell. And when you wake up, the world will be changed into a better place. So I'm sitting there kind of zoned and not really thinking about anything when a familiar voice says, "I heard they call you Freak the Mighty." I look around and there she is, the bookworm, sitting on the bench and staring at me, these really intense green eyes. Eyes so hot and bright you can almost feel the heat. Freak the Mighty was two people, I tell her, Kevin and me. "Who's Kevin?" she asks. And so I tell her about my best friend, Kevin Avery, a 3-foot-high kid with a brain like Einstein, and how the other kids called him Freak because he had leg braces and this crummy disease that meant he couldn't grow. How I used to act so dumb that everyone, including me, thought I didn't have a brain. Until Kevin showed me how to think anyway. Sorry, there's a fly. And how the two of us became Freak the Mighty and went on a lot of cool adventures, slaying dragons and fools and walking high above the world. "Cool," she says. "So where is he now, your little friend Kevin? Did he move away or something?" I don't really want to talk about it, but there's something about the way Worm listens that makes it okay. "He died," I tell her, "last year." She sits there for a while thinking about it, then she goes, "What a crummy deal." "Yeah," I say, "it was." "So," she goes, "now you're Max the Mighty." For some reason, that makes my ears burn hot. "I'm just Max," I tell her, "just plain Max." Worm has this sort of smile on her face like she knows a secret about me, and she's about to say what it is when a worried voice calls out, "Rachel, leave the nice man alone." So now we know her real name. I turn and see this woman perched on a bench nearby. She looks real nervous, like she's going to leap up any second and scream for the cops. Like because I'm big and goofy looking, I might be a pervert or something. But before I can get really steamed up, I notice the woman looks familiar. She looks a lot like Worm, only older and sadder. "Rachel," the woman says. Worm goes, "It's okay, Mom. He's from school." The woman gets up from the bench and comes over. She's wearing this long, old-fashioned black dress, and she's got this stiff-legged way of walking, like her feet are hurting, and she doesn't want them to touch the ground. When she gets closer, I notice these dark bruises under her eyes, and right away, I know there's something scaring her, and it's not just me. "I'm sorry, sir," she says in a low, sweet voice that's even sadder than her eyes. "I thought you were a stranger." She's calling me sir, like I'm a grown-up, and that makes me feel a little weird. I sort of like it and don't like it all at the same time. The trouble with looking like a grown-up is the older I get, the more I look like my father. Looking like your father is okay, unless dear old dad happens to be Killer Kane and he's in prison for murdering your mother, which means people look at me and think maybe I'll grow up to be just like him or worse. Worm goes, "We'll be safe here, Mom." She thinks because I got the gangbanger to leave her alone, I can make her safe all the time. What a joke. If she knew what a sapsucker I really am, she'd get a head start and never stop running. "Safe?" I ask. "Safe from what?" "Never mind that, Rachel," her mom says. "We mustn't involve this young man in our troubles." But our mom sits down too. The three of us together on the bench like we're waiting for a bus, which is sort of strange, but okay. It's quiet for a while and then Worm pipes up. You know what that pond reminds me of? The wind in the willows. Remember how Daddy used to read me that story? I remember, her mom says, kind of wistful. Worm roots around inside her backpack until she finds a dog-eared copy of the book. She flips through the pages, but you can tell she's practically got the thing memorized. She's read it so many times. Remember how Mole and Badger and Rat like to row around in their little rowboat? And Mr. Toad is always acting so grand and getting into trouble. Her voice is going higher, like talking about the story is making her feel like a little kid again. She turns to me and says, remember? Not exactly, I say. You never read The Wind in the Willows? I go, I saw the cartoon version on TV, which sounds so lame having to admit you never really read a famous book. I'm expecting Worm to give me a hard time, but she doesn't. Instead, she says, we don't even have a TV. You know who won't let us. Huh? I say. My creepy stepfather. He hates TV even more than he hates books. My real dad loves TV and books. Rachel, her mom says like a warning. Well, he does, Worm insists. My real dad is always sending me stuff to read. He calls me his little bookworm. Her mom stands up and takes a deep breath. Come along, she says, taking Worm by the hand. We have to keep moving. I'm wondering why they have to keep moving when suddenly this old black station wagon screeches to a halt in the street behind us. No, not a station wagon exactly. It's an old Cadillac hearse, the kind that isn't used for funerals anymore. The motor is smoking and drippy streaks of rust make it look like the hearse is bleeding from the inside. Suddenly, the door flies open and out pops this tall, skinny dude with a floppy black hat and long black coat and black shoes, everything black. It's the Undertaker, and he's coming to get us. So now we've met Worm's mom, and we now know Worm's real name is Rachel, and we can infer that the Undertaker is probably her. I'll let you guys guess. Chapter 5, The Undertaker. They call him the Undertaker because he dresses in black and drives this ratty old hearse. I've seen him on street corners in downtown waving his Bible around and telling people to give him money because he knows the truth with a capital T. Only he never quotes from the good book like a real preacher. He just acts like he'll thump you on the head if you don't fork over some cash. Some people like to egg him on and get him really shouting, but I always steer clear. He's just another angry nut bar ranting about the world gone wrong, a street crazy with the mean streak. You see a guy like that, you never think he might have a wife and a child at home. Don't you run from me, he's shouting. Only he's the one doing the running, coming right at us, waving his arms. With the long black coat and his cold, dark eyes, he looks like some kind of crazy blackbird flapping his wings. Run from me and you run from the Lord, he snarls. He's staring furious hard at Worm's mom. She's not looking at him or me or even at her daughter. She's looking straight down at the ground like she hopes it will open up and swallow her. You hear me? The man in black shouts. You hear? I wasn't running, she explains in this strange dead voice. We just went for a walk. I look over at Worm. She's kind of curled up on the bench, hugging her knees. Her eyes are open, but you can tell she's not seeing anything on the outside. I reach out to tap her on the shoulder to get her attention, and that's when the man in black screams, Don't touch that girl. Spit flies out of his mouth. He's so angry. His face is white and tight like a skull without enough skin. Rachel, get away from that man this instant. Worm won't look at me. She moves slow-footed to where her mom waits. The Undertaker has planted himself in front of me like a stake driven into the ground. What did they tell you? He demands. Speak to me, you big oaf. I don't know what to say, so I decide to stand up instead. The man in black watches me get a lot bigger and taller than he is, and he takes a few steps back like he doesn't want my shadow to touch him. I'm still trying to think of what to do next when Worm's mother comes to life. You win, Martin, she says to the man in black. Come along, Rachel, let's go home. Worm follows her mom to the old hearse. Then just before she gets inside, she breaks away and runs back to me and grabs hold of my jacket. Rachel, get back here. Worm whispers, don't forget. And then she turns and runs back to the hearse. A moment later, they speed away, tires screeching. I'm standing there like the biggest dork in the world when I realize that Worm hid something in my jacket pocket. What'd she hide? I'll let you guess for a minute, or I'll let you infer for a minute. That's the same thing. Chapter 6, Run for Your Life. The lump in my pocket is a book, The Wind in the Willows, the worn out old copy that Worm had in her backpack. I open up the cover and see where she's written her name and address on the inside with the instructions, return or else. Don't forget, so that's what she meant. Just my luck. I'm sitting on a park bench minding my own business, and now I'm supposed to return a book to a weird girl who's in trouble. I figure that's why Worm put the book in my pocket, so I'd follow her home and be Max the Mighty and save her from her creepy stepdad and leap over tall buildings in a single bound like Superman. Yeah, right. But even though I'm a weenie, something inside thinks maybe I should return the book and make sure Worm and her mom are okay. That's when my brain says, don't be a donut. You want to return the book? Put it in the mail. But the rest of me is thinking, I've got to do something, even if it scares me. Because the undertaker is always spouting about punishing sinners and how only he knows what is true, the truth with a capital T. What a load of baloney. A man who would do that to his own family, treat them like dirtballs, he wouldn't know the truth if it bit him on the butt. The address inside the book is in the projects. That's a place where people don't have enough money, and half the stuff that should be inside the houses is left outside, like old baby strollers and busted furniture and cheesy toys that always look sad in the rain. The wrong side of the tracks, like Graham says, except they took out the railroad tracks before I was born, so now it's just the wrong side of town. Anyhow, I'm trudging along looking out for cracks in the sidewalk because now I need good luck more than ever. And the more I think about how the undertaker treats his family, the more it burns me. Cracking his voice like a whip and talking to Worm like she was nothing special, just a thing to be yelled at. Part of me wants to stop and go back to the mill pond and forget about the girl and her mom, but I keep going. Like my brain is switched off and I'm this lumbering beast with big feet as big as shoeboxes. After a while, I get to her neighborhood. The buildings kind of lean the wrong way and the shadows are long and spooky. The street signs have been torn down or sprayed over, and I'm trying to figure out which way to go when the shouting starts. The undertaker and Rachel's mom. The woman's voice is high and sharp and angry, but you can tell she's scared too. The undertaker, well, it makes me feel kind of sick in my stomach because she sounds so cruel and hateful. I'm like a dinosaur with a second brain in its tail, except the extra brain is in my feet and they're making me follow the terrible dark noise. Follow it through the gloomy shadows that live in the alley and past the filled to the brim dumpster and around by the rusty chain link fence. It's still daytime, but the old buildings are so close together, it might as well be night. I keep on going, and the whole time I've got this feeling like I'm on an elevator going down too fast, but I can't get off, and any second it's going to hit the bottom. The angry voices are getting louder. Keep your hands off that child. Shut up, woman. Shut your mouth or I'll break it. Leave her alone or I'll call the police. And this time I'll tell them the truth. They're fighting about Worm. I can feel that in my bones. And then I come around the corner of the old tenement building and see the old hearse parked in the street. There's a light coming from the basement apartment, the kind of apartment where the entrance is under the front stoop and there's no iron bars on the windows. I'm sorry, there are iron bars on the windows. The undertaker is shouting, I will punish that child as the Lord sees fit. And then her mother goes, you've never even read that Bible. You're not a real preacher, you're a fake. And then smack comes the noise of a hand slapping hard against a face. And then the sound of a woman sobbing. This can't go on, the woman whimpers. Martin, please stop. Don't do it. Please. Quit your blubbering. But the woman keeps crying, crying from deep inside like her world is cracked open and all the good is leaking out. It's a sound I remember from a long, long time ago when my father made my own mother cry. And that's why my feet won't let me run away. I'm not really thinking about what happens next, but I want to stop that terrible, sad crying. And that's why I go down the steps to the front door, thinking maybe if I ring the bell, they'll stop fighting. Ding dong, and everything gets better. But there isn't any doorbell. And before I can make a fist and knock, the woman cries out, "No, no." And then something falls on the floor and everything gets very quiet. The silence makes me wish I was 1,000 miles away. And when I look into the room through the bars on the window, I see a terrible thing, a thing so horrible it feels like my heart has stuck to my ribs and won't ever beat again. Rachel's mom is lying on the floor, blocking a bedroom door with her body. Her eyes are black and bruised and her nose is bloody and she's not moving. The undertaker yanks her arms and pulls her away from the door. He's about to open it. There's a cruel look on his pale white face and his eyes are cold and gleaming and his angry hands are reaching out. Kerwham! That's when I come crashing through the front door and knock it off the hinges and slam it flat on the floor. "You!" he screams. But he sees the look in my eyes and how big I am and he backs away. Rachel's mom moans and raises her head, and when she sees me through her swollen eyes, she almost smiles. "Get away from that door," the undertaker shouts. That makes me want to open the door, and I do. The first thing I see is a light shining on a book. Worm is sitting in a corner with her knees up in the dark. She's got the old miner's helmet on her head, and the light is aimed at the book she's reading. She knows I'm there, but she won't look at me. She's all shut up inside. When I get my mouth working, it says, "Come on, you have to get out of here. We have to call the police." Worm just keeps reading her book like the book will save her, like her stepfather can't touch her as long as her miner's light is shining. But that won't stop him. Nothing will stop him except getting her away from him. So I grab her backpack, scoop her up in my arms, and carry her out of the room. When I get clear of her bedroom, the undertaker takes a run at me and then pulls up. "She's mine," he screams. "Give her to me." I decide I'd rather die than do what he wants. Rachel's mom is crawled up from the floor. It's hard for her to talk, but she looks at me and says, "You've got to get her away from here. Please take her away." Worm has her face hard against my chest and she won't look at her mother. "Run away," her mother urges. "Do it, go." And that's how I became a desperate criminal and kidnapper wanted by the law. So now we've met the undertaker, Rachel/Worm's stepdad. Does Max taking Worm really make him a criminal? By the law? Perhaps. But was it the right thing to do? Probably. I think I would probably try to help my friends. So anyway, that's where we'll stop. We'll pick up tomorrow morning on Friday. Have a wonderful, tremendous, fantastic Thursday, and I'll see you guys in the morning. Bye.